Hello and welcome everybody to today's session on financial modeling using AI. We have planned this to be a quick 60-minute session where we will share AI use cases specifically for financial modeling and inside financial modeling also specific to FP&A use cases. So that is what we will be covering in today's session. Quickly, we'll talk about what is financial modeling for F. So if you haven't worked in FP&A or if you haven't learned financial modeling as a formal if you haven't done a financial modeling training formally, then this could be a good introduction. Okay, and then we'll talk about some use cases. We'll also demo some use cases using different tools including Claude and ChatGPT, and if we have time we'll also look at agentic AI tool like Manus. So that is what we are going to cover. We talk about what is financial modeling for FP&A, and then show you good 3 or 4 use cases so that you can get how you could implement these in your roles or in your day-to-day work life. So that is what the agenda for today is. Before that, we'll do a quick introduction about us, FP&A Professional Institute. So I've been joined by my co-trainer and co-founder Dhawal. So Dhawal, if you can quickly introduce yourself.
Thanks, Asif. Again, I'm Dhawal Parvatikar. I'm a qualified chartered accountant. Close to 2 decades of experience. I worked as a CFO and a finance leader in India and in the Middle East. I've been an active trainer over the last 6 years or so, and I've trained more than 5,000 professionals on various topics like FP&A, finance business partnering, data storytelling, CFO career coaching, and much more. So that's a little bit about me.
Thanks, Awal. Thanks for joining. And about me, I've been working in finance FP&A for over 10 years now, specifically in and in 2023, we started FP&A Professionals Institute. So over last 3.5 years now, we've been training participants across the globe, across 100 plus countries through our courses and certifications in FP&A and AI for finance. So that is a little bit about me, Dhawal, and the FP&A Professionals Institute. So with that, we will quickly get into the webinar. However, a quick note about our flagship program, which is CGFPA, which is the 6-month in-depth certified global FP&A professional certification. This is an in-depth FP&A certification, which is designed for working professionals, especially if you are looking to transition into an FP&A role or if you have just started working in FP&A. So that is what the certification is for. We'll talk more about that at the end of the webinar. So first of all, we'll talk about what is a financial model. Any report is not a financial model. So people call uh, any report a model, which is not right. So for it to be a financial model, it needs to have at least 3 or 4 important components. The most important components is that it should have the inputs section, which is most often the assumptions part. So there should be some assumptions that needs to be separately documented on a separate, in Excel it could be a separate sheet. So assumption is one important part. Then second is it needs to have some sort of a calculation, which is what the main model or the main engine is inside the financial model. So assumptions, then it needs to have some calculations using the assumptions, and then finally it needs to have a output, which is a summary or a report that you need to be presenting. Okay, so it needs your assumptions, which are the inputs, the calculations, which is the main engine of the model, and then the final output, which is most likely a summary or something that you want to present to your manager or to the CFO. Okay, so that is what a financial. If you have all these 3 components, then you can call the report or the Excel file a financial model. If any one of these components are missing, then it is not a financial model technically. Okay, and then they could be more parts, which could be a scenario, or you could add sensitivity analysis, or you could add instructions for somebody who's using the model. So there could be more sections to the model, but these are the core ones, which is assumptions, calculations, and outputs. Now that we understood what is financial model or what is a model, let's understand what do we mean when we talk about financial modeling for FP&A. So let us consider these two big circles. The one on the left hand side is all financial modeling basics, I would say these are important skills which everybody should know, irrespective of which finance function you work in. So consider that as a basics. And on the right hand side, which is the circle, which is this one, we would consider these to be certain financial modeling skills which are required for non-FP&A roles, or which may be required if you are working in equity research or valuations or investment banking, and which of some of them are very industry specific. For example, real estate modeling. Okay, so if you want to become a expert in financial modeling, if you want to learn everything about financial modeling, these are all the topics you would typically find in any financial modeling curriculum. Okay, now what we are focusing in on is only the use cases which are specific for FP&A. And what are those use cases? If you are using financial modeling for preparing your budgets and forecasts, making them more productive, then it is use of financial modeling for budgeting and forecasting. If you're using it for building revenue models or expense models, then you're using the financial modeling techniques for your FP&A roles. Or if you're using modeling practices to build a three statement financial model or to build a cash flow forecast, these are all use cases for FP&As. Similarly, scenario planning, sensitivity analysis, being able to build a long range projections or capital budget models, these are all specific skills that you need for your FP&A roles, or as a you should be able to do as a finance manager, irrespective of whichever function you work in. So these are some skills which are considered to be as basics, or which are considered to be you should be knowing to be able to do any sort of a finance role, be it FP&A or otherwise. So that is what the financial modeling is, or financial modeling for FP&A. And why we are covering this, because our focus is going to be only on these use cases for this particular webinar, or for the next 45 to 60 minutes. Okay. So with that, what I will do is I'll stop sharing my screen and we'll quickly check how many of you are using AI tools like Claude, ChatGPT on a regular basis. Type me in the chat box and also type which tool are you using. So is it Copilot, is it Claude, is it ChatGPT? Just let us know which of the tools you're using on a day-to-day basis. And if you're not using any tools as of now, that is also fine. You can say, okay, no, I'm not using any of the tools, which is also fine. Okay, so I see some responses, and a lot of you are using Claude. So I see sometimes Gemini. Okay, so I see a lot of people are using Claude, which is good to hear. And we will cover a lot of use cases on Claude as well. And I see ChatGPT as well. Okay, so we'll cover some use cases on ChatGPT as well. All right, thanks for those responses. So let me quickly go into my Excel now. So what I will do is I will go into a new Excel file. I will quickly share, right, for those of you who don't have the Claude ribbon installed, I'll just quickly in 1 minute share how you can get it. You don't have to get it right now, but for those of you who don't have it, you can easily get it in less than 60 seconds. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to go to your Excel file, open your Excel file, and search for for the Claude add-in here in the add-ins section. Okay, and the one which will be this orange color icon, which is a Anthropic logo, you need to get that particular add-in. Okay, so it's a fairly quick process. It takes less than 60 seconds. Quickly, let me just show you how it will look like, just in case if you want to get it right now. Okay, so it will take less than, I would say, 60 seconds. So you need to go to this Claude add-in and then search for Claude, which I already showed you. I already have it. That's why uh, I'm showing this presentation to you, so that if you want to get it, you will see similar steps. Okay, so you need to search Claude. You need to get the one which is relevant for you. Make sure that you get the one with the Anthropic logo. Once you add that add-in, you will see the Claude add-in pop up like you see for me. Okay, so let me just show you how it will look like once you add it. Okay, it will look something like this, which is this particular ribbon, which you see on the right hand side. Okay, so it will look something similar to what I have here in my computer. Okay, we are on the right hand side. Okay, so it will say get started with these skills. It will give you some prompts, and then here is a chat window where you can interact. You need to keep in mind couple of things while you are using this add-in. So first of all, you need to be signed into your Cloud account. So if you're not signed into your Cloud account, it will prompt you to sign in. So it will show you something like this in that ribbon, which is you need to click here, which is copy the sign in link. So you need to click here. Once you sign in, it will ask you to copy the code which is required for you to run the add-in. So you need to copy the code, and then once you copy and paste the code inside the ribbon, it should be a one-time thing. So it is only the time when you are installing it. Once you install it, once you authorize it, then if you do not change your right, if you do not log out of your Claude, you then again you don't have to do this again and again. So fairly straightforward, quick process. In less than 60 seconds you should be able to get the Claude add-in, which is going to look something like this once you are ready. So right now, for those of you who have it, they can follow along, but for those of you who do not, they can watch right now on the screen, and then later on they can look at the recording and then do practice if they want to do that. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll quickly go to my Claude ribbon, and let me make it slightly bigger so that you are able to see what I am doing here. So first, what I will do is I'll quickly try to build some of these use cases that I talked about, right? So let me just first build a very simple revenue model. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go to my prompt notepad, and I will just first, just for the sake of showing to you how could you build a very simplistic revenue model, you need to give it the most important drivers of the model, and once you do that, you should be able to see a structure of the model come up. Okay, so for example, what I'm doing here is I'm telling the Claude add-in that build a 12-month revenue forecast for a software. Okay, so this is the product. Okay, with 1 million registrations every month, which is growing at a 10% month on month growth. It has 85% activation rate, meaning out of the people who download the software, 85% people activate it, meaning they become active users. However, only 2% of the people take the paid subscription. So majority of the users are free users, but some people or some percentage or small percentage of it pay $19 a month to access some premium features. Okay, and the monthly retention rate of those paid users is 50% month on month. Okay, so these are some basic assumptions you may have for your particular business or for your particular organization, which you can input here and then see what happens. Okay, so these are some 5 or 6 assumptions that I am feeding into Claude, and I'm asking it to build a 12-month revenue forecast. So this is a quick first step that I am doing. While it is running, let me quickly talk about what happens behind the scenes. Okay, so first it is reading the prompt and trying to logically sequence what are the steps it needs to perform in sequence. Okay, what will be the step number one, step number two, step number three, step number four. So it'll do that. Okay, now you see those steps. Okay, so it says that, okay, first let me set up the Claude log sheet. That is a sheet where all the audit trail is captured. Whatever steps the Claude is taking, all of those get captured in the Claude log sheet. Next, it is writing the assumptions block. So it is preparing the assumptions section. We talked about a financial model needs three important components: the assumptions, the model, or the calculations, and the output. So it is building the assumptions section, okay, which is the first and the most important part of the financial model. Next, it is building the forecast table. So if I go to the sheet one, it is already populated the assumptions section, which is the assumption that I gave, okay, which is 1 million registrations in month one, growing at 10% month on month, 85% activation rate, 2% conversion. And I mentioned $19, but because the Excel is configured for Indian settings, it is picking up 19 rupees. So let me just quickly change that to dollars. Yeah, I can change that to dollars. Okay. And you can see all the assumptions have been documented. Now, based on those assumptions, it has also populated or given me the revenue model for the 12 months. Okay, so I can see that the revenue for 12 months, again, this I need to change it to dollars. Okay, so you see that it's not perfect, right? It's still making some mistakes which you need to be able to catch. Based on this, I can see the revenue model. It is 1.2 million or 12 millions in this case. So you can see 323,000 in the first month. So overall, in 12 months, it is making $12 million. So this is what the model is, which is a forecast. Now it is asking me something as a permission on the right hand side. So it wants to clear the stay values in row total. So I think it wants to clear these totals for some reason. So I'll say, okay, allow, and let's see what it does next. So what I will do is, if it is okay, so it's done fairly quickly. So it was able to give you the assumptions, document the assumptions, and then based on that, it was able to give you the model for the for the next 12 months, or the revenue model for the next 12 months. Okay. Now, one question I get asked is, right, these are all things that I can, these were some things that were not required. So I will delete those, or I'll clean that up. Now, again, it went back to the rupees. I'll need to make sure that I either prompt it to be in dollars or I change it to dollars. Now, what I will do as a next step is, when you are building financial models, you don't want it to be, or first before that, does it change when I change the assumption? So let me just make some changes to the assumption. Let me make the 10% registration, or the 10% growth rate at 15%. Yeah, when I do that, the model changes. When I increase the registration percentage, the revenue increases. When I reduce it, the revenue drops down, which means the model is working. Again, let me try one more time. The conversion percentage is 2% right now. Let me make it 1.5, loses revenue. And when I make it 2.5, it is gaining revenue, which means the model is working fine. Now, what I will do as a next step is, I want to make this little bit dynamic. I don't want this to be a static model, meaning just one scenario. I want couple of things to be there in the model. So let me go back to my prompt notepad. Okay. And what I will do now is give it another prompt. Okay. And I'll ask it to build some scenarios. Okay, let's see if it is able to do that. So what I'm doing right now is I'm giving it the next prompt. Now I want it to build on a separate sheet three different scenarios, which is base case, best case, worst case. Okay, and I'm giving it certain specific instructions. Okay, for downloads, consider plus minus 10% for the best case and worst case. Consider different rates for the conversion rates. Okay, so 1.5% could be the worst case, 2% is the base case, 2.5% could be the best case. Okay, so I'm giving it different scenarios for the best case, worst case, and the base case, which typically we usually do in financial modeling, or we build it to be dynamic, and we want to change the best case, worst case, and see how does the revenue change accordingly. Okay, so let me try and do that, and let's see what happens. So while it is doing this, it may take about maybe 3 to 4 minutes to do that. Let us talk about what are the different. Let's talk about what are the different elements of this Claude ribbon. Okay, so the most important ones is this drop down, where you can change or toggle between scenarios, or sorry, toggle between the different models that are available. So you have, right now at this point, you have the Opus and the Sonnet and the Fable. Okay, this was not there in UAE until the last week. It is disabled. This got just enabled maybe last 24 hours or 48 hours. So now you can use the Fable 5. Feeble 5, what I have experienced is it is two times much faster than the Opus 4.8, and also it is much more in depth in terms of doing deep analysis. So that is what is being said about Fable 5, which is fairly new model. We are still experimenting on how it goes. Until the last webinar, when we used to do this, we used to use the Opus 4.8, which was also very good, which was also not bad. Okay, so I'm very eager to see how the Fable 5 will perform. So I just started using it in the last few days, I would say last 1 or 2 days. Okay. Then you have the Sonnet 5. So I typically use Sonnet 5 for very basic analysis. So if I'm just doing some chats back and forth, I just use Sonnet 5. But if I'm doing any in-depth analysis, like I'm building a financial model, or if I'm asking it to build a lot of sheets, then I would probably use either 4.8 Opus or the Fable 5. Okay, now it is asking, Claude wants to add a drop down. Okay, so it is building those scenarios. So let me just go into the scenario analysis tab. And if you notice, it has already built those three scenarios: the best case, the worst case, and the base case. Okay, now what I think it is struggling, or it is asking me is, it is asking me to clear this B3, which is this. Okay, so it is wanting to build some scenario drop downs there. So I'll say allow once. Okay, so if you notice now that one, if you look at if you notice, when I drop down from base case to base case, you see the assumptions changing here in the columns E, and based on that, the model also gets updated. So in the best case, the revenue becomes, instead of, right, it becomes, uh, instead of 12 million, it becomes 22 million. And when I do the worst case, all the assumptions change as per what I had given, except for the currency denomination. Everything looks okay, and the base case exactly is what we had, which is 12 million. And then when I drop down from base to worst, it goes down to 5. Okay, so this is what I would have taken another maybe hour or hour and a half to build it manually using Excel, using data validation, using index match. Now all of that is done within less than couple of minutes. Okay, does it mean that this is 100% accurate? In most cases it is, but it is always recommended that you cross check all the formulas and then use it only once you are comfortable looking at it in terms of the. So you need to still be able to understand how does financial models work. Don't assume that just because of AI you will be able to skip the basics. So you need to still understand how the financial model works, and then you will be able to trust and review and audit what the AI is throwing out and decide whether it is a good output or not. In this case, it is looking to be a fairly decent output. So this was the first use case where I wanted to show this quick model with three different scenarios. I'll take a quick pause and see if there are any comments, any questions in the chat box.
So there was one comment, Asif, how to add it in Excel. I think you covered that already.
Yes. So I can repeat, maybe I can do spend 2 more minutes on that. So what you need to do is I'll quickly bring up the Excel. So in the Excel add-in section, you need to find the Claude by Anthropic, which is going to have this Anthropic logo, the orange color logo. Make sure that you get the one with the Anthropic logo because there might be some similar sounding add-ins which may not be the official ones. So you get this, add it, and then since I already have it, I may not be able to show you the steps here. So this is how typically the steps look like, which documented here, which we will share it with you as well. Okay. So once you search, you find the Claude add-in. Once you add it, it'll ask you for authorization. So if you're not signed into the cloud, you'll need to sign in. You'll need the paid account. So you need at least a $19 subscription to be able to use the Cloud Excel add-in at this point, which can change if you're watching the recording. So you need the $19 or $20 subscription to be able to use the Excel add-in. Once you sign in to your cloud account, and if you have taken the paid subscription, then you need to follow these steps where you need to copy the key, the Claude key inside your Excel add-in. It's a fairly seamless process. You just need to copy the code and then paste it in the Excel ribbon. And then once you do continue, you'll be able to use the Claude ribbon like I am using. Okay, so it's a fairly seamless process. It takes less than 60 seconds if you do it, if you follow the steps properly. Let me quickly show you another use case, which is on sensitivity analysis. So we did scenario planning. Now what I'll do is I'll quickly go to another of my Excel file, which is already open. Okay, so this is another model where I have certain drivers on the left hand side. So I'll quickly give you an overview what this is. So this is a website which is publishing or which is making revenues through advertisement. So consider a classic website which is publishing blogs and videos, and then it makes money through advertisements. In terms of the advertisements or digital ads, these are the important KPIs. So you have the click through rate, meaning how many people click on the ad. Then there is something called as the CPC, which is per click, how much you make per click. Okay, so in this case it is $1.5 per click. And you don't just make money if the people click on the ad, we also make money if the people just see the ad, meaning if you just scroll through the website and if you just see the ad, which is typically the impressions, in technical terms it is called. So this CPM, which is cost per meal, which is cost per thousand impressions. So per thousand impressions you make $2, per single click you make $1.5. So based on these drivers, the revenue model is built. And for this particular month or for this particular use case, you have 800,000 visitors, 2% click-through rate, different CPM, CPC rates, and the annual revenue is $25,000. So this is what the situation is. Now, when I'm doing sensitivity analysis, what I am looking at is I want to see what will be the revenue in different by changing one or more assumptions. Okay, so when I am changing one or more assumptions, which in this case is the monthly visitors and the click-through rate, which you see on the top and the on the left-hand side. So how will the revenue change? So that is what I want to test. Okay, so let me just quickly use ChatGPT now. So we looked at one example of Claude. So let me go to ChatGPT and let me see if I can make ChatGPT do this quickly. Okay, again, let me go back to my prompt. Okay, so I'm just going to give a very basic prompt. Here, what I'm going to say is just update this sensitivity analysis table. Okay, let me repeat the last 30 seconds or so. So what I'll do is I'll paste a prompt here which says update the sensitivity analysis table. You don't have to use this word. You can just say update the table, and you could say update the table given the data set. Okay, given the data set. Okay, this should also work. Let's see what it does. Okay, it says I will inspect the active sheet to identify the data set and the target table. Okay, so it said it found, I did not use the word sensitivity. It said it was able to detect that. Found the sensitivity grid, which is this grid. Okay, I'll populate. Okay, so here it is asking me to allow to edit the spreadsheet. I'll say allow for this chat. Okay, and if you notice, it was able to quickly update the sensitivity analysis table. Okay. Now, how do I know if this is the right numbers? So let me just quickly see 800,000 at 2%, which is 800,000 on the top, which is this particular column, and at 2%, which is this particular row, okay, which is the intersection, which is $25,600. You can see this is the exact same number, which means the sensitivity analysis table is working. Okay, so what it has done is it has used the Excel formulas. If you go and look at it closely, and it has used the Excel formulas based on the driver-based relationship between these drivers to calculate the revenue number. Okay, so also uh, it has done the conditional formatting, which I did not ask for, which is like red color for the lower ones and the green colors for the bigger revenues. Okay, so it was able to fairly do this sensitivity analysis. I could have done this in Claude as well. Both of them are fairly capable of doing. This is fairly a simple use case for doing the basically sensitivity analysis, where you have a model uh, or you have some assumptions where you want to test the sensitivity, or you want to see what will be the revenue or expense at different levels of the assumptions. Okay, all right. So I will take another pause. So we covered quick recap what we did till now. So we talked about what is financial model. We talked about what is financial modeling for We also looked at an example of a revenue model. We built scenario planning, or we did the best case, base case, and the worst case for that revenue model. We also saw an example of how do you do sensitivity analysis using ChatGPT. So we've used two different tools, Claude and ChatGPT, and we've done three different, I would say, examples, one on revenue model, one on scenario planning, and one on sensitivity analysis. Okay, one last example, Dhawal, do we have time for 5 more minutes? If you do, you want to
I can
cover
quickly
some?
touch upon us if 5 7 minutes. I can touch upon quickly.
Okay, so what I'll do is we'll look at another tool, which is going to be an agentic AI tool, which is going to be also a good example to see. Okay, so let me stop sharing my screen.
Okay, for the next use case, I'm using a tool called Manus AI. So Manus originated as a Chinese AI tool powered by models like Claude and Gwen in the backend. So the interface is pretty much looking like ChatGPT, so you can ask and you can get a lot of things done. I feel it is slightly better in terms of building websites, presentations, and I think Claude is also now doing a very good job on all of these things. So again, I'm testing it for building a financial model. So let me just quickly walk you through. I'll not build it from scratch, but I'll quickly walk you through how it was able to perform on building a financial model from scratch. So here's what I mentioned to Manus AI. Can you build a three-statement financial model for 3 years for a SaaS company? Scale it up from 500 to 1,000 to 5,000 subscribers in 3 years at a USD $200 per annum subscription. Do your own research and capture the costs in the financials as per the understanding of the UAE market. I want this entity to be based in UAE, and I asked it to study the rentals, the infrastructure cost, the internet cost, all of it basis the UAE market, and build the costs according to its research. Okay, the company will be based in the UAE and the customers will be based across the group. And said, okay, understood. I'll build a comprehensive 3-year financial model. Started processing on its own. So all of this is done by Manus on its own. So then let's see how the outcome came. So the first round of outcome was looking something like this. I've not downloaded the Excel, but I'll quickly show it to you here. It gave me a basic income statement, balance sheet, and a cash flow statement along with the key metrics. Not very happy with the outcome. I wanted the assumptions and the base case, worst case scenario as well. So that's where I went in a step further and said, okay, now amend this model using financial modeling best practices, capture the assumptions on a separate sheet so that I can edit it later when required. Also keep a switch for selecting the base case, best case, and worst case scenario. So it said, okay, understood I'll enhance the financial model as per professional best practices. I'll include the scenario selector and the dynamic formulas. Started giving me all this information, and then it gave me an enhanced model which looks something like this. Again, some quick mistakes. Although it was able to capture the scenario selector, the assumptions very rightly on a separate sheet, it was still
Focus
not very
करने
flawless. Yeah, it was still not very flawless in terms of the scenario selector. Like I wanted the scenario selector to be a drop down. Okay. So it was still not very flawless. So I said, okay, let me try and refine this. Looks good. Can you make the scenario selector cell a drop down style button so that once the scenario is selected, all the calculations are according to the scenario? So okay, then it started updating the scenario drop down button, and then it gave me something like this. Okay, so again, it's an enhanced model. Now you can see that there is a scenario drop down button as well. So if I come to the income statement, the base case is in this case 100,000, 200, and $1 million in revenue. Let me also quickly test it out. I'm selecting the best case in the scenario, and then the income statement should change. Still not changing. Okay, so let me see what I was able to ask it again. The model is flawed. The balance sheet is not balancing. Okay, the balance sheet also was not tallying. So if I look at the Excel sheet, so there was a difference in the balance sheet as well. The current assets, the assets and the liabilities were not matching. So these were some obvious flaws as well. So I think as the prompting gets refined, and if you are able to give it more context, then the outcome will be much better. Okay, and then it said, okay, you're absolutely right. I apologize for the oversight. Let me balance it out. Okay, and then it was still not. It did not give me the flawless model. Said, what do you mean balance check? You can see my frustration here. The assets and liabilities should match in the balance sheet. Why are you not able to do it? Right. So I mean, I was actually taking out my frustration. By this time I had already spent about 20 minutes to discuss and explain everything. Then finally, it understood what I was looking for, and I was able to get that enhanced financial model. Okay, in this case, I had the balance sheet now perfectly balanced out. Okay, so I had the total liabilities now matching with sorry, where is it? The total assets now matching with total liabilities. Yeah, so now it's perfectly balancing. Yeah, so this is what it gave me as a model. So let me show you quickly the downloaded version of how this model looks like. Give me a second. Let me bring that up. Cool. So this is what I was able to kind of build in like a quick 20-minute conversation with Manus AI. Pretty decent. I would say the formatting, the assumptions and everything, we can give the more detailed prompts you're able to give, the better it is. Right. And here is how the quick income statement looks like. It's giving me personal cost, marketing and customer acquisition cost, license and compliances, professional services, co-working space, all of these different kind of costs. It gave me the balance sheet as well, which has all different kind of assets, current assets, fixed assets, and then the liabilities. And then it had, I think this is not the final version, but yeah, I think you get the gist that this is how it was able to do it. Let me test it out. Test the scenario selector. Base case was 100, 200, and 1 million. Let me test it out with the best case. Hopefully this works this time. So best case changes to 150, 325, and 1.75. Right? So it was able to change the revenue as well. So again, this is just a quick example. The more accurate we are with the prompts, the better outcome it will be. The idea of this was to kind of demonstrate that you can still achieve the same outcome of building that financial model through various tools. One we tried with Claude, one we tried with ChatGPT, and the other one we tried with Manus AI. Over to you, Asif.
Thanks, Dhawal. So what we would like to say is you should be using these tools as a help. However, you should not be blindly trusting them at this point, or I would say at least for the next foreseeable future. So what you should be doing is using it to build the structure of the model, which takes a lot of time. So if you had to build these models by your by using Excel manually. So it would have taken a couple of hours. So use the structure that it gives you, and make sure that you review all the formulas that it is throwing out. So you should not be blindly trusting the models without doing a quick audit, or without being able to do a sense check. Okay, so that is what I would like to say. With that, what I will do is I'll quickly talk about the CGFP program, which is the 6 month FP&A certification that we talked about in the beginning. So I'll share my screen quickly. Okay, so what the CGFP program is, it is a in-depth FP&A certification, especially for people who are looking to move into FP&A, or people who have less than 3 to 5 years of FP&A experience, to be able to gain the skills required to grow in their careers in their finance roles. Okay, so what the program does is it is a global certification in FP&A, where you learn directly from FP&A leaders and experienced CFOs. With 10 comprehensive modules, you become a part of the global alumni community, or the FPI community, where you have access to the entire curriculum. You get access to guest sessions which happen almost every other week. So you have access to faculties, you have access to Q&A calls which happen on a monthly basis. There is placement support, and also you can get on to a call with a one-on-one coach for getting help on your career, which could be related to your resume or your interviews, or anything which is related to FP&A in your career. Okay, so that is what the CGFPA program is. It has 10 comprehensive modules. Let me talk about some of the modules, and Dhawal will talk about some of them. So it covers introduction to FP&A, which talks about how does the FP&A function looks like inside out. How does it look like in a mid-sized company? How does it look like in a large organization? How does it look like in startup environments? So what does the FP&A look like? What is the monthly calendar? What do they do in week one, week two, week three? So all of that is covered in the introduction to FP&A module. Budgeting and forecasting covers budgeting and forecasting techniques like top-down budgeting, zero-based budgeting, incremental budgeting, forecasting techniques like rolling forecast, driver-based forecasting. So all of the important budgeting forecasting techniques and methods are covered using real-life examples, case studies. You make end-to-end budgets for a real-life looking company with raw data. You start with the data, and then you end with a CFO budget presentation. So that is the budgeting forecasting module. AI for finance is where we cover all of the use cases using AI tools like the ones you saw today. We have ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, Manus, and then there are specific AI tools for specific use cases. So this is what is covered in the AI for finance and FP&A module. Management reporting, we cover important FP&A reports that are used. For example, the month-end report, the quarter-end report, reports which are used for analysis in terms of interacting with different functions. How do you build a headcount and salaries report, or how do you build a sales report? How do you build a marketing ROI analysis? All of that use cases are covered in the management reporting module, along with how do you do variance analysis using different frameworks? How do you do profitability analysis? So that is a little bit about the management reporting module. Financial modeling for FP&A covers a lot of best practices and use cases on how do you implement financial modeling skills, or how do you implement financial modeling best practices to FP&A use cases. Some of them you saw examples today. Similarly, there are 20 plus examples in the financial modeling module, where we teach you how to do financial modeling using best practices applied for FP&A use cases. The use cases that you saw, since scenario planning, sensitivity analysis, building revenue models, doing long range projections, capital budgeting. So all of that is covered in the financial modeling module.
Awesome. So I'll talk about the modules on the right. So one thing that is common in your FP&A role is that you will be dealing with large sets of data, whether it is financial data or operational data, and you need to know your way. How do you navigate through these large sets of data? So that is where we are introducing you to all the data analytics tools like Power BI, Power Query, SQL, and now we have introduced Python and Tableau as well. So that is where, again, we don't claim to make you an expert in these tools, but at least we give you that perspective of yes, you can use these tools apart from Excel, and then you are comfortable to use these tools in your day-to-day FP&A roles as well. Then comes financial analysis. Now, financial analysis, many of us confuse it with just ratio analysis, right? So, but financial analysis internally from a CFO's perspective, there are n number of different kind of analysis like horizontal vertical analysis, mix analysis, margin analysis. All of these different kind of analysis are required to support a lot of decision making inside the company. So we cover multiple financial analysis techniques and examples with use case with real life cases. Storytelling and presentations. Yes, you as a finance professional are comfortable with Excel and you can analyze 10,000 lines of Excel sheet. But how do you translate that into a meaningful story with a strong narrative in a very simple way so that the business teams can understand and act on it? So that is where all the storytelling and presentation best practices come into play. We share all the frameworks, the best practices, again, along with practical examples. Then comes strategy. Now, strategy is again a very interestingly positioned module. As and when you start becoming senior, your senior management will start talking a certain strategic language, and that time, at that point in time, you cannot use strategy terms in a very loose way. So that is where we're covering all the popular strategy tools, frameworks, and also show you how they are interconnected with FP&A or how F can contribute to the strategic financial decisions in the company. Again, with all practical examples. Then comes business partnering. So business partnering largely rests on two things. One is your business acumen, and then the second one is your ability to build strong cross-functional relationships. In our careers, Asif and I have worked 7 to 8 different kind of examples on various sets of collaboration, like collaborating with HR, marketing, production, supply chain, so different kind of collaborations. We share how we were able to add a lot of value to various cross-functional teams or truly partner with the various cross-functional teams inside the company. We share all the business partnering best practices along with real-life examples that we have worked on. Okay, so that's 10 comprehensive modules that you can expect about CGFPA. Don't just think about CGFPA as a program. It's 20 years of our blood, sweat, and tears packed into a 6-month program, which is going to fast track your finance career at least by a few years.
Thanks, Dhawal. So, in terms of the eligibility, you need to have at least a bachelor's degree or an equivalent qualification in finance, accounting, or business, or you need to have a profession qualification like a CA, CMA, ACCA, CFA, or an equivalent. Okay, so either one of these is required. So either a bachelor's degree or a professional qualification. In terms of how do you get awarded the CGFPA certification? So you need to undergo the the certification program, which is a 6-month journey that we will talk about in a minute, and you need to at least maintain 50% attendance in the live sessions, have a capstone project which will be at the end of the 6 months. So there's going to be a capstone project that you will need to prepare and submit, which will be a part of the process, and then you will appear for the final exams, and you need to score at least 50% marks in the final exam. So that is the entire requirement for the for the CGFPA certification. CGFPA certification is accredited by CPD UK, which means that they have audited the program and they have it meets the best practices and the standards which is required by the CPD UK. Also, you can claim the credits in terms of the CPD continuing professional development credits that you need to be submitting to your CA, CPA, ACCA institute, so which usually is required by the members on an ongoing basis. So that's a little bit on the eligibility and the C qualification. The next cohort, the orientation happened a few weeks back in June. The cohort is starting on 4th of July. We already have 16 to 17 participants who have already enrolled, and we are just closing the enrollments today with the last couple of seats being open. So what do you recommend is you fill in the application if you want to join the current cohort, and our program managers can reach out to you uh, and take the next step. So in in all, what it requires is 6 months of your commitment for 4 to 5 hours a week. I would say 5 to 6 hours a week, including 1 hour of some pre-reading or some self-study that you will be required to do during the week. So there are going to be live sessions on Saturdays and Sundays, and then you need to set aside maybe 1 more hour during the week for the self-study. That's about the CGFPA program. Okay, so Dhawal will share the brochure links and the detailed links on CGFPA in the chat box. Thank you, everybody, for joining today's session, and have a great rest of your evening. And we will see you in the next weekend's webinar or the next week's webinar. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone. All the best. Bye bye.